The crowd roared across the wide-open arena. Banners of many colors flew high in the sky. Thousands of aliens from different planets filled the stadium seats. It was the opening day of the Galactic Games, an event held once every 10 years. These games were not just for fun, they were for pride. Each species in the galaxy sent their best warrior to show their strength and skill. The winner's planet would gain respect and influence for the next decade. This year, for the first time ever, a new species had joined the games, humans. From Earth, among the giants, beasts, and strange creatures, a single human stood quietly. His name was Milo. He looked small compared to the others. No horns, no claws, no extra arms. Just a plain, calm man in a simple suit. The crowd noticed him and laughed. "Is that a child?" One alien shouted. "Did Earth send a farmer?" said another. But the loudest laugh came from a tall, strong female warrior named Varka. She belonged to the Ergan Empire, a warrior species with 4 arms and thick armor-like skin. She stood almost 3 meters tall and carried a giant double blade. On her back, she looked at Milo and laughed loudly. "He's too small to satisfy me in battle," she said. "One hit and he'll run back to his tiny planet." The crowd cheered at her words. Milo didn't respond. He didn't get angry or try to argue. He just smiled, a small, quiet smile, and looked back toward the arena. He had heard such things before. The announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. "Welcome, warriors of the galaxy. Today, we begin the contest of champions. Your strength, speed, and minds will be tested. This is not just about power, it's about honor." One by one, the champions stepped forward. Each gave a shout or display of their power. Fire, lightning, roars. Weapons, all kinds of show dash-offs. Milo stepped forward too, but he said nothing. He gave a respectful nod to the judges and quietly stepped back. Varka shook her head. "He's already scared." The first test was a fire path run. Each warrior had to run through a long tunnel with fire jets that moved randomly. The tunnel also had spinning floors and walls that shifted without warning. It wasn't just about speed, it was about timing and awareness. The first few warriors ran. Some made it halfway before slipping or getting lightly burned. A few strong ones finished, but not without heavy injuries. Varka went next. She roared and dashed in. Her large size made it hard to move quickly, but her armor protected her. She pushed through the fire and broke down one wall just to exit faster. The crowd loved it. Then it was Milo's turn. He stepped toward the tunnel quietly. He closed his eyes for a second. No armor, no weapons, just focus. When the whistle blew, he began to run, not fast, but carefully. His eyes stayed sharp, watching each fire jet as it moved. He didn't try to force his way through. Instead, he weaved left, ducked low, rolled forward, and slipped between the moving walls like water through cracks. At one point, a jet of flame nearly touched him, but he turned, bounced off the wall, and slid under it like he had done this 100 times. In less than 2 minutes, he reached the end without a single burn. The crowd was silent at first. Then someone clapped, then another. Soon, the whole arena gave polite applause. It wasn't wild cheering, but it wasn't laughter either. Varka frowned. How did he do that? She whispered. After the first round, the warriors returned to the waiting area. Some sat with their teams, bragging and laughing. Milo sat alone, sipping water and looking up at the sky. Varka walked past him. "You got lucky," she said. "That won't happen again." Milo looked at her and gave the same soft smile. "Maybe," he said. Varka blinked. She had expected him to argue or defend himself, but he didn't. Instead, he looked at the arena again and asked her, "Why do you fight?" She was caught off guard. "What do you mean? Is it for victory?" Milo asked. "Honor? Or is it just for the cheering?" Varka didn't answer. She turned away and went back to her group. Later that evening, the scoreboard showed the top 3 scores. Varka was second. Milo was first, based on speed, safety, and intelligence. The arena buzzed with whispers. "Did you see that human?" He's fast, but he doesn't even look strong. He doesn't need to look strong, someone replied. He is strong, but not everyone believed it yet. Many thought Milo's win was a fluke. Varka planned to prove it in the next round. She looked at Milo across the room. He's small, she said again, more quietly this time. But maybe he's not what he seems. The sun rose over the grand arena on the second day of the Galactic Games. The crowd filled the seats early. Everyone was still talking about the small human who surprised them all, Milo. Alien news channels showed slow-motion replays of his perfect run through the fire path. Analysts from different species argued how someone so small and simple could be powerful champions. He just got lucky, said one. He studied the fire jets, another said. He planned every step. Down in the resting chambers, the champions prepared for the next event. Some stretched, some sharpened weapons, and some meditated. Milo sat quietly near a fountain, drinking water and reading the rule board of the next test. His mind was calm, but his eyes were focused. Today's challenge was called the Tower Push. Each warrior had to climb a large platform and push a heavy energy block, a glowing cube weighing many tons, across a set distance. It wasn't just about strength. The block reacted to movement. If pushed too fast, it grew heavier. If pushed too slow, it froze in place. Only balanced force could move it. Varka stood with her arms crossed, watching the others prepare. She was still upset about yesterday. Losing to someone she mocked had stung her pride. She told herself she would beat him today and remind everyone who the real warrior was. She looked over at Milo again. He wasn't stretching. He wasn't checking his gear. He was just sitting, still acting calm. She muttered, "Let's see how calm he is when he faces the cube." The announcer's voice rang through the air. "Champions, welcome to the Tower Push. Step up and show us your control and strength. Let the second round begin." One by one, the champions were called. The first was a giant spider-like alien from the planet Zenth. It climbed the tower quickly and used all 8 legs to push the cube. But it rushed the movement. The cube glowed red and doubled in weight. The spider struggled and only moved it halfway. The next was a beast with a tail made of stone. It pushed the block with power and balance until it slipped on the smooth floor and fell. Then came Varka. The crowd cheered loudly. She climbed the tower with speed and power. Her forearms flexed as she grabbed the cube, slowly and steadily. She began to push. Every few seconds, she adjusted her force. Not too much, not too little. She focused hard and kept her eyes on the cube's glow. Step by step, the block moved. After 7 long minutes, she reached the end line. The crowd roared in approval. "Now that is strength," one announcer said. Varka raised her arms in victory and looked toward Milo, who was standing quietly near the stairs. "Let's see what the little one does now," she said under her breath. "Milo." "Of Earth," the announcer called. Milo nodded and stepped forward. He walked calmly up the stairs and stood in front of the cube. He didn't touch it right away. Instead, he bent down and placed the small metal discs under his shoes. They looked like thin plates. Then he tied a light band around his wrist with blinking lights. The crowd murmured, "What is he doing? Is he allowed to use tools?" "It's within the rules," said a judge. "No external power, but tools for balance and control are permitted." Milo placed his palms on the cube. He waited. The cube flashed green, ready to move. He started to push it not with brute strength, but with rhythm. He moved his feet in tiny steps, gliding slowly, letting the energy cube shift bit by bit. The plates under his shoes helped reduce floor friction. The band on his wrist blinked with every glow of the cube, helping him adjust force. He wasn't the fastest, but he was perfectly balanced. The crowd was silent, watching in amazement. In 5 minutes, he crossed the finish line. Not a single error. The cube glowed soft blue, the color of ideal performance. Judges looked at each other. One of them clapped, then to more. Soon, the whole arena clapped. Even the champions nodded. But Varka didn't clap. She stared at him with narrowed eyes. After the round, all champions returned to the resting chamber. Some congratulated each other. A few came to Milo and asked about his tools. "You build those yourself?" asked a bird-like alien. "Yes," Milo replied with a smile. "Simple designs. Just physics. You think too much," another champion joked. "It helps," Milo said. Varka walked past him without a word. But something in her eyes had changed. She was no longer laughing. She was thinking. Later, as the scoreboard updated, it showed Milo of Earth. First place Varka of Urga. Second place Droka of Zenth. Third place. The crowd outside talked more seriously about Milo now. "He isn't just lucky," said one alien. "He's smart, small, but focused," said another dot back in her room. Varka looked at the screen, arms folded. "How can someone so quiet leave the scoreboard?" she whispered. Then she remembered something he had said. "Why do you fight?" He had asked. She had no answer then. But now she began to wonder. Was she here to win? To prove something, or just to hear the crowd cheer? She looked at the reflection of her face in her blade. Behind her strong features, a small doubt had started to grow. And across the arena, Milo sat by himself again. Watching the stars above. He had not come to impress anyone. He came to win. In his own way. The third day of the Galactic Games began with a soft wind and a glowing sky. The sun above the arena was red and warm, shining down on thousands of excited fans from many worlds. Today's event was one of the most difficult challenges, the maze of fire pots. The maze was not just fire and heat. It was a living structure. The walls moved, doors opened and closed, and the fire jets shot out without warning. Every warrior had to find the right path and reach the end before time ran out. Speed, awareness, and clear thinking were needed. Many champions looked nervous. Even the stronger ones had heard stories about how tough this challenge was. Varka stood with her arms folded. Her skin armor gleamed in the light, and her forearms were covered with new flame-resistant wraps. "This test is for the smart ones," someone said nearby. Varka smirked. "And the brave ones too," she replied. Then, her eyes moved toward Milo. He was sitting under a small tree near the edge of the preparation zone. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow and calm. Once again, he wasn't showing any fear or stress. "He's meditating," someone whispered. "Is that what humans do before danger?" Varka didn't respond. She kept looking at him, her mind not laughing like before. Milo had earned the first-place scores already. He didn't fight with muscles, but he moved like water, thought like a machine, and stayed quiet like a mountain. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. "Champions, prepare for the third round, the maze of fire paths. You must reach the end before the red sun touches the gate. Choose your steps wisely." One by one, the champions were called forward. A reptile-like warrior named Storm went first. He ran in quickly, dodging some flames, but soon turned down a wrong path. A door closed behind him, and he was trapped for 10 minutes. When he finally came out, his armor was scorched, and his pride was hurt. Next, a flying creature named Kriva tried to rise above the maze, but flying was not allowed. Drones pushed her down with energy fields. She hit the floor hard and failed to reach the exit. Then Varka's name was called. She climbed the maze wall and jumped inside with power and speed. Her long legs carried her quickly through the twisting paths. Her eyes were sharp, and she used a small sensor stone to help detect heat levels. She avoided 3 fire jets by pure instinct and leaped over a collapsing floor tile. After 7 minutes, she rolled out of the exit gate, smoke rising from her back, but still standing. The crowd cheered. Varka looked up proudly. She had done well, but now it was Milo's turn. He walked slowly to the gate of the maze. He wore no armor, just a light fireproof jacket and boots. In his hand, he carried a small round device, something he had built himself. It blinked softly and made tiny beeping sounds. The crowd leaned forward, waiting to see what strange thing the human would do this time. As the gate opened, Milo stepped inside. Instead of running, he paused at the first wall. He touched it gently and listened. His device blinked again. He smiled and turned left. Flames shot out behind him, but he was already gone. step by step. Milo moved through the maze like he had memorized it. In truth, he had studied every corner from the air the day before. He had watched others train from above, taking mental notes. He knew how the fire jets worked. They were based on heat sensors and movement patterns. Every time he walked, he made sure not to trigger the fire. He moved quietly, softly, like a shadow between walls. In the control room above the maze, the judges watched his path. How is he avoiding all the traps? One of them asked. He understands the pattern, said another. He reads the maze like a book. Varka watched from the edge of the arena. Her arms were crossed again, but her expression had changed. She wasn't angry this time. She was curious. 5 minutes passed. Then, before anyone expected it, Milo stepped out of the final gate. No burns. No cuts. No mistakes. Just a calm look on his face and that same soft smile. The crowd was silent for a second and then stood up, cheering louder than ever before. Even the announcer sounded impressed. Ladies and gentlemen, our fastest, cleanest maze run so far. Milo of Earth, after the match. The scoreboard updated once again. Milo of Earth, first place 3 wins. Varka of Urga, second place. Droka of Zenth, third place. Back in the resting chamber, warriors began to talk about Milo in a new way. He's not a soldier. He's something else. He doesn't fight. He solves. I've never seen anyone move like that inside the fire maze. Milo sat alone again. He sipped water and closed his eyes once more. Varka walked over to him. You weren't fast, she said. No, Milo agreed. You weren't strong either. No, he nodded again. She tilted her head. Then how did you beat all of us? Milo looked at her and replied simply, I just paid attention. Varka didn't laugh this time. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, quietly, she said, You're not what I expected, and you're not what I feared, Milo replied, standing up. They looked at each other, not as enemies now, but something different. Not yet friends, but not rivals either. Just 2 warriors with different ways. The sun lowered behind the arena, the lights came on, and the people of the galaxy talked late into the night about the small human who kept winning without shouting, without anger, and without ever raising a weapon. The next round would be harder, but now everyone knew Milo's name. The 4th day of the Galactic Games began with a new kind of energy. The crowd was louder than ever, waving flags, flashing lights, and holding up signs in different languages. But this time, many of the signs had one name written on them, Milo. The human, once laughed at, was now the main talk across the galaxy. 3 events, 3 wins. The other warriors had started to treat him with respect. Some nodded when they passed him. Others asked questions about his tools, his thinking, and his training. Milo answered kindly, never boasting, never acting proud. But not everyone was pleased. Some champions felt uneasy. This human isn't a warrior, they whispered. He doesn't fight. He doesn't roar. He just walks in, solves the task, and wins. And today's task was one no one thought a small human could complete. The announcer's voice echoed across the sky. Champions, today's challenge is the pull of stones. The crowd cheered wildly. This round will test your power and control. You must pull a heavy block, 10 tons of pure weight, across a rough, rocky field. The fastest puller will win. At one end of the field, giant glowing blocks rested on the ground. Each block was connected to a thick metal rope. No machines, no help, no shortcuts, just raw strength and determination. Some champions smiled. Others cracked their knuckles or stretched their arms. This was the kind of challenge they trained for. Finally, something that involved pure power. Varka stood tall and proud. Her muscles were strong, her arms were ready, and her legs were wrapped in thick rope to avoid injury. She looked at Milo across the field. This time, she thought, he can't use tricks. Let's see him beat gravity. The first few warriors were called. A tall, scaled alien with 6 legs began. He wrapped the rope round his waist and pulled. The stone moved slowly, but he kept it going. It took him 12 minutes to reach the finish line. The next was a robot-like creature with iron arms. It pulled the block in 7 minutes. The Fastest so far. Then came Varka's turn. The crowd stood up, cheering. She had always been known for her strength. She stepped up, tied the rope across her chest, and shouted once before starting. The stone slid forward. Her forearms worked together in perfect rhythm. She pulled, leaned, and walked backwards step by step. Sweat poured down her face, but she didn't stop. After 6 long minutes, the block crossed the line. The crowd cheered. Louder than before. New leader, Varka of Urga, the announcer declared. She raised her arms and roared. Then came Milo's name. The cheers grew quiet. People looked around. Some were curious, others looked doubtful. He was too small, too light. The rope was thicker than his arms. Still, Milo walked forward calmly. He didn't tie the rope around himself. Instead, he opened a small bag and took out 2 things, a folding lever stick and a pulley wheel. The judges looked at each other. Are those tools allowed? One asked. Yes, another replied. He's not using any power source. It's legal. Milo attached the pulley to a side post and hooked the rope through it. Then he placed the stick under the front edge of the stone, using it as a lever to lift the edge just slightly. Then he pulled. The block moved slowly, but it moved. The pulley helped reduce the resistance. The lever helped adjust the weight, and Milo's movements were steady and calculated. The crowd stared in silence, step by step. The block moved across the field. No shouting, no rushing, just focus and patience. After 5 minutes, the block crossed the finish line. The silence broke. The entire arena stood up and clapped. Even the announcer's voice trembled. New record, Milo of Earth. In the resting area, champions gathered around the scoreboard. Milo, first place Varka, second place Droka, third place some champions laughed softly. He's a genius. He beats strength with brain pull of stones, and he didn't even sweat. Varka watched from a distance. She wasn't angry this time. She wasn't jealous either. She was thinking. She had used her full strength and still lost. Milo had used simple tools and clever thinking, and won again later. As the champions rested, Varka walked over to him. You knew this was coming, she said. I guess something like this, Milo replied, wiping his hands. You studied stone pulling. Yes, he said. Humans have used pulleys and levers for thousands of years. We don't always lift with muscle. Varka sat down beside him, something she had never done before. You're strange, she said. I know. Milo smiled. You win without hurting anyone. You never shout. You don't even celebrate. I don't come here to show off. Milo said quietly, I come to do my best. Varka looked at her own hands, strong, large, powerful, and then looked at his, small, steady, gentle. Maybe I was wrong about you, she said. Milo looked up. Most people are at first. As the sun set behind the arena, the crowd continued to chant his name. Reporters tried to catch a picture. Fans asked for recordings, and across the stars, planets began to notice Earth's quiet champion. Not the biggest, not the loudest, not the strongest, but still at the top. The 5th day of the Galactic Games arrived with heavy clouds and a cool breeze. The sky was darker than before, but the crowd was full of excitement. Everyone was talking about one thing. Milo of Earth, the small human who had now won 4 rounds in a row. Across the galaxy, news reports showed clips of his smart moves, his quiet focus, and his steady victories. Children from different planets copied his actions in play. Even older warriors began to say, maybe there is something special about humans. But not everyone was pleased. Many champions still felt confused. They had trained for years with weapons, strength, and combat skills. Yet here was a quiet human who didn't roar, didn't fight, and didn't brag, and still won again and again. Varka sat alone under the shade of a tall stone. Her muscles were sore, her pride a little shaken. But deep inside, her thoughts were changing. She remembered her own words on the first day. He's too small to satisfy me in battle. Now, she wasn't so sure. The arena was prepared for today's event. Open round. Duel of choice. This round was different. Each champion could choose to challenge any other champion in one-on-one combat. It wasn't just about power. It tested courage, strategy, and respect. The winner of each duel would gain points. The loser would still be respected, as long as they gave their best. But there was a rule. Each champion could only be challenged once. The crowd grew silent when the announcer spoke. Let the challenge round begin. Step forward if you wish to make a challenge. For a moment, no one moved. Then, strong footsteps echoed across the field. It was Varka. She walked slowly to the center, her head high, her forearms relaxed but ready. She turned toward the line of champions and pointed directly at Milo. Gasps filled the air. Some were shocked, some cheered wildly. Milo, standing calmly in the line, looked up and met her eyes. I challenge Milo of Earth, Varka said in a clear voice. No weapons, no tools, just us, hand to hand. The crowd erupted in loud noise, cheering, shouting, buzzing. The announcer's voice followed quickly. Challenge accepted. The human will face the warrior of Urga. In the center of the arena, the floor was cleared. 2 circles were drawn. The rules were simple. Stay within the circle. Push, trip, or move your opponent out to win. No armor, no weapons, no help. Milo stepped into the ring. His face was calm as always, but his eyes were focused. He stretched lightly and stood straight. Varka stepped in across from him, her large body casting a shadow. Her forearms moved slowly as she took position. I don't want to hurt you, she said. I don't want to be hurt, Milo replied softly. The horn blew. The duel began. Varka moved first, not fast, but strong and steady. She reached out with 2 hands to grab Milo's shoulders, but he bent low and slipped past her. She turned quickly, trying to catch him, but again, he moved lightly to the side. The crowd watched with open mouths. Milo was dancing, not with his feet, but with his whole body. He didn't fight her. He didn't hit her. He waited. Varka rushed again, this time with more speed. She tried to corner him, using her size. Milo stepped back once, twice, then spun and dropped to the ground. With one clean move. He touched her leg and pulled just slightly. Varka's foot shifted on a small loose stone, and she stumbled. She caught herself before falling, but now she was just inches from the edge of the circle. She froze. Milo stood still, watching. The crowd was silent. Varka looked at the line, so close to stepping out. She breathed deeply and smiled. Then she raised one arm and stepped out of the ring. The crowd cheered wildly. The announcer shouted, "Victory to Milo of Earth." But the crowd wasn't just cheering for him. They were cheering for both of them after the match. Milo walked toward Varka. "Why did you step out?" he asked gently. "You earned it," she said. "You didn't need to beat me. You understood me." He looked confused. "You waited," she said. "You studied my moves. You gave me a chance to fight with respect." "I didn't come here to defeat anyone," Milo said. "I came to show who we are." Varka nodded. She placed one strong hand on his shoulder. "You showed it well." Back in the resting chambers, the other champions clapped for both of them. "That was the best duel," one said. "Not a single punch," said another, laughing. But everyone understood. This duel had more meaning than all the others. It was not about breaking bones or showing off power. It was about trust, control, and honor. Varka sat beside Milo that evening. For the first time, they ate together. "You know," she said, "on the first day, I laughed at you." "I know," Milo smiled. "You were quiet, small, and calm. I thought that meant weak." Milo nodded. "Many do. But now I see your strength is different." As the stars lit the sky above the arena, the scoreboard updated again. Milo of Earth. First place, 5 wins, Varka of Urga. Second place, Droka of Zenth. Third place, and across the galaxy, beings of every kind began to tell the story of the small human who kept winning with heart, not harm. The 6th day of the Galactic Games began with soft golden light. The sky above the arena was clear. Wind passed gently through the flags of 100 worlds. The crowd was quieter than before, not because they were less excited, but because something had changed. The games were no longer just about power and winning. Now they were about something more, That change had a name, Milo of Earth. He had won 5 out of 5 rounds, and yet he never shouted in victory. He didn't act proud. He didn't raise his hands. He just smiled softly and walked away. Many in the crowd didn't just admire him now. They respected him deeply. Even the warriors who once laughed at him now greeted him with kindness. Inside the resting chamber, champions were preparing for the next round, aid and survival test. It was a challenge like no other. This test would take place in a large simulation field filled with broken structures, falling objects, and injured droids acting as civilians. Each champion had to find a way to survive and help others while escaping a disaster zone. The more civilians saved and the smarter the choices, the higher the score. It tested more than strength. It tested compassion, teamwork, and quick thinking. Varka stood beside Milo near the entrance of the field. Her face was calm, her body ready. But her eyes held something new. Respect. You'll do well in this one, she said. Milo looked up. Why do you think so? Because it's not about being fast or strong, she replied. It's about caring. And you care more than most. Milo gave a small smile. Let's both do our best. The announcer's voice rose. Again, clear and proud, champions. Welcome to the aid and survival test. Save if you can. Escape if you must. Prove that your strength is more than muscle. The gate opened. A loud siren rang. Smoke rose from broken buildings. Fire flickered from corners. Droids lay on the ground, acting as injured people. Heavy beams blocked the path. The sky was filled with falling debris, fake but real enough to test fear and timing. Each warrior was dropped into a different part of the field. Varka landed near a large broken wall. A group of 3 droids lay trapped under steel. She ran toward them, lifting the pieces with her strong arms. She carried one over her shoulder and guided the other 2 to safety. She worked quickly, moving rubble and shouting orders. Move to the light, follow the signs. Her training as a soldier helped her, and her size allowed her to lift beams others couldn't. But across the field, Milo moved differently. He didn't run fast. He walked carefully, scanning every corner. His ears listened for small cries and soft beeps. When he found an injured droid under a cracked roof, he didn't lift the heavy object alone. Instead, he used a broken pipe and 2 blocks of stone to build a simple lifting frame. Slowly, he raised the piece without harm. He pulled the droid out and checked its system. Then he restarted it and gave it directions to exit. Further ahead, he saw a group of droids near a blocked door. The path was full of smoke. Milo tied a wet cloth around his face, broke open a side wall using pressure points, and made a new escape tunnel for the trapped droids high above. The judges watched. Look at the human, one said. He's not rushing. He's planning everything. And he's not just saving. Another added. He's teaching. He's showing the droids how to help themselves. Down on the field, Milo found another warrior struggling to carry a damaged bot. It was Droka of Zenth, a proud, horned fighter with a short temper. You helping me? Droka asked, surprised. Let me hold it, Milo said. You're limping. Together. They moved the injured droid to the safety zone. When the siren ended, the simulation paused. Lights turned blue. All champions stood still. As the judges reviewed the points, each warrior had done well in their own way. But one name stood at the top once again, Milo of Earth. Highest rescue and smartest plan. The crowd stood and clapped. Not loudly like in the early days, but in a slow, deep, respectful rhythm. Back in the chambers, many warriors came to Milo. A quiet alien from the icy world of Vern said, You saved the one I missed. Thank you. Droka came forward too, scratching his head. I don't like being helped, but I didn't hate it. Milo smiled. It's not weakness to need help. It's strength to accept it. Even Varka, sitting with her hands around a warm drink, gave a slow nod. He doesn't just win, she said. He helps others win too. Later, the scoreboard was updated. Milo of Earth. First place 6 wins Varka of Urga. Second place Droka of Zenth. Third place across the galaxy. Messages were sent from world to world. Who is this human? He doesn't fight with force, but with heart. Maybe Earth is not weak. Maybe they're just different. That evening, the champions gathered near the garden lights inside the arena base. Some sang songs from their worlds, others shared food or stories. Milo sat with Varka and Droka. For the first time, they talked like friends. Are all humans like you? Droka asked. No, Milo said honestly. Many are stronger, some are smarter. I'm just one person. But you represent something bigger, Varka said. A kind of strength we didn't understand before. Milo looked up at the stars. We all have something to offer, he said, even the small ones. The night wind passed through the trees, and across the galaxy, people spoke not of who won with fists, but who won with kindness, skill, and heart. The last day of the Galactic Games had arrived. Every seat in the grand arena was filled. Banners of many worlds moved in the wind, from the cold moons of Zelna to the fire cities of Droka's world. All eyes were on one name now, Milo of Earth. Once laughed at for being too small, too quiet, and too different now, he stood undefeated. Milo walked slowly toward the center of the arena. His steps were calm, but his heart was full. He could feel the weight of every moment that had passed, every challenge, every word spoken, every smile given. The final test was not a battle or a race. It was a choice. The screen above the arena glowed with the final message. Today, we do not test your strength. We test your soul. The announcer's voice rang out, champions. Today's final challenge is the test of wisdom. You will be shown a series of choices. No one will stop you. No one will help. Choose what you value most. Glory, peace, power, sacrifice. Each answer will decide your place. The field changed. The crowd fell silent. In front of each champion appeared a set of 3 doors, red, blue, and gold. Each door had a different path. There were no clues, only silence. Milo stood before the doors. The others had already chosen theirs. Varka went through red, Droka through gold. Milo stood for a moment. He looked at the gold door. Glory? He had won already. He looked at the red. Strength? He had used it with care. Then he looked at the blue door. Peace, quiet. A path of no reward, but possibly the right one. He chose the blue. Inside was a wide, simple room. There was no enemy, no puzzle. Just a childlike alien droid sitting on the floor, looking scared. Round it were images of war, fire, and destruction. The screen asked, this creature holds the knowledge of peace, but the others believe it is weak. Do you protect it and risk being forgotten, or leave and become a hero? Milo looked at the small being. Its eyes were full of fear. He sat beside it, placing a gentle hand on its shoulder. I'll stay, he said softly. You are not weak. You matter. Suddenly, the room changed. The walls opened. Light filled the space. Milo stood alone on a new platform above the entire arena. The crowd gasped as they saw what he chose, not power, not reward, but compassion. The judges rose to their feet. The voice of the arena spoke again. Champion Milo of Earth, you have passed every test not by force, but by wisdom, care, and action. You have earned the highest honor. You are the guardian of the games. The crowd stood. Even the warriors who once laughed now clapped with real pride. Loud and strong. Drive Oka smiled in the audience, shaking his head. He did it again. Varka, standing beside him, whispered, he was never too small. We were too blind. Milo stepped forward to receive the honor crystal. It glowed in many colors, each showing the values he carried. Kindness, bravery, patience, and heart. The head judge asked, what do you wish for your reward? A title, a planet, a seat in the council. Milo looked at the crowd and said clearly, I don't want a reward for myself. I want every world to send their youngest to learn together so they stop fearing what's different. Let us build peace through understanding. The crowd went silent, then cheered even louder. Later, during the celebration night, Milo sat under a tree near the garden lights. The wind was cool. The sky was full of stars. Varka walked over and sat beside him. You were wise not to fight. Be that day, she said with a smile. You were strong enough for both of us, Milo replied kindly. She laughed. I said once that you were too small to satisfy me in skill, in strength, in heart. I was wrong. Milo looked at the stars. We all learn, he said, and we all change from that day forward. The Galactic Games were no longer only about power and fame. They became a place of learning, peace, and unity. And at the heart of it was a human, a quiet warrior from a small blue planet. No longer small, no longer underestimated. Simply respected.